Naomi has the most past to escape. This unravels over her story, but what we see is that even Amos might not have needed a more desperate escape. He was, at least, built physically, mentally, and emotionally to survive the hell of overcrowded, crime-infested Baltimore. But Naomi had to escape something that sought to squeeze her until she was nothing more than a husk. Naomi's first confrontation with her past is when she gets a message from Marco and Aros, her lover long ago, about their son Philip. We had met him in the book's prologue as he led the Belters on their attack on the Callisto shipyards. Marco says that he respected her decision to leave him, but now he must reach out because Philip is in trouble on Ceres Station. Philip is the one and only lever that Marco can use on her now, and in the end she decides to go there, making clear to Holden that she's doing this, that she's doing it alone, and will only tell him after it's all done what has happened. Any attempt by him to interfere, though, means that she's leaving him. This might seem excessive, but we understand as the story goes on that in many ways this is a litmus test for Holden to see what kind of a man he is. The story gradually reveals what happened to Naomi. When she was 16, she was finishing her equivalency on Hygeia Station, where a ship would frequently berth that was captained by a man named Roku. Roku was part of the most militant OPA faction there was, and Marco was part of his crew. As they put it when Naomi arrives and meets up with Philip and their old friends, there's OPA and there's OPA. And he's referring to Anderson Dawes, who runs Ceres, remember. He's not talking about someone like Fred Johnson. Him they still refer to as the Butcher. Marco warped the world around him, she had thought, and she'd been taken in, doing work with them while in dock and supportive of the OPA's goals. With all the horror that we have covered in the first 3 parts, it's hard to remember at times the way the powers that be have mistreated the Belt. It wasn't as if there were a couple of exaggerated slights that compelled rocks to be dropped on the Earth. People radicalized because the inner planets were mistreating the Belt and would do nothing about it. Besides all of the normal things, there was also the destruction of the dream of Terrian Lock, intended to be a place by Belters for Belters, a modular station that could be expanded or contracted as needed so that the Belt would have a home. The powers that be ensured this would never happen. No unauthorized colonies. This particular meddling demonstrated the callous disregard that would radicalize people. When you remove personal autonomy, when you remove the hope of making their own lives, you invite people to strike back against you. Ironically, Marco doesn't seem to realize this applies to him and Naomi. One thing that Naomi was horrified by when they were younger was the discovery that Marco used a code that she wrote to destroy a ship with 234 people on board, overloading the magnetic bottle. She's horrified by this, but is under Marco's control, and Marco's charisma and ability to nest his plans, as she puts it, makes him look like a savior to the Belters. Nesting plans means that you take a plan that's a sure thing, and then you add to that plan something in addition that is relatively easy, but not a slam dunk, and nothing that's going to interfere with the first plan, to make sure that that one can't fail. Then you add something that's hard, but possible. And then perhaps you'll add something on there that's pretty unlikely, but not totally out of the question. Every mission is thus a success, and in many cases, you get several far grander successes along with it. With the legend in his small circle, standing against Marco for Naomi is just impossible. When he realizes what she's doing, Marco goes a step further and takes Philip away from her. For the boy's own good, he claims. Giving the boy to other members of the group to keep away from Naomi backs up his story that she's acting crazy, while also showing trust by leaving his only son with that person. A double win for Marco, as it's putting everyone on his side and against anything that she might say. Trapped like that, denied her son and surrounded by people insistent that all of this mistreatment is for her own good, Naomi began to have suicidal thoughts. At one point, she attempted to blow herself out an airlock, but a safety system she hadn't noticed stopped it. This was the realization, though, that either way it was over for her relationship with her son. Either he would have a dead mother or an absent mother, but either way he was going to lose his mother. As she puts it later on, she was a wolf that was stuck in a trap, and she gnawed her paw off in order to escape it. She left part of herself behind forever, but it was the only way she could ever possibly be free. This is why Philip was the only thing that Marco could use to get Naomi to go to Ceres. She couldn't resist that even now. But it's a mistake. She secures a ship for them to go off Ceres without the authorities knowing about it, and they thank her by drugging and kidnapping her. All, as Marco says, for her own good. Thus, they don't treat her like a kidnapped victim. They sit around telling old stories as if this was a reunion, and Naomi decides to play along with that. Yet they say things that reveal much about how they told Philip the truth, as they call it, that the work of being OPA got too harsh for Naomi, that she couldn't handle it. And yet, the Rocinante was in the middle of so many things, wasn't it? The Canterbury, the Donager, Eros, the Earth's Civil War, the Slow Zone, Ilus, and more. Naomi, who couldn't handle harsh things, was going through stuff few have ever had to, and everybody was hearing about it. A complete contrast to the story that Marco had long been trying to push on everyone. It's exactly the same when the news hits about the rocks falling on Earth, and Naomi learns from a boastful Philip that he was put in charge of that job, that it was his handiwork. Rather than being impressed or proud of him, Naomi instead treats it with sadness. This is the same thing that Marco did to her, she said. He made her a killer, just like he has with Philip. And then she tells him, when you want to commit suicide, come see me first. It's treated as harsh by everyone else, but as she puts it, they're sending child soldiers out there now. How desperate have things become if that's what they're reduced to? Yet Marco turns that around, saying, no, he's an adult now. What we'll find out in the next book, though, is that Marco will say whatever is convenient. Any time that Philip starts to get a little bit out of line, Marco immediately treats him like a child. He is an adult only when it's convenient for Marco, and the rest of the time he is someone who can be dismissed. Over the years, Naomi has had enough time to realize exactly what Marco is, a grade A narcissist. He even says that part of the reason for this kidnapping was to provide closure, which Naomi openly calls crap, actually worse than crap. All Marco means is that it ended and he lost, and he won't accept that. She walked away from an emotionally abusive man, and he can no longer abuse her. That doesn't require closure on her part. This is made even more overt when Naomi uses the distraction of the battle to send the message warning Holden about the magnetic bottle on the Rocinante, something she'd prodded out of him because of his vanity. As she puts it, Marco hates Holden because Holden is everything that Marco just pretends to be. And that, as I said, was the litmus test before she went to Ceres, proving that Holden was not another Marco, because he was willing to put his trust in her, willing to accept her terms and not try to control or manipulate her. And Marco comes back with abuse. First, he lies, saying that the Rocinante had only been rigged to be disabled, going off at 5%. But as I mentioned last time, it was set to go off at 95%, taking out the ship and a good part of Tycho, too. Then Marco rigs up the Czech Smoka, the ship that Naomi had purchased to get them off Ceres, and she had actually given it to Philip as a present, so that the ship is going to now explode if anyone gets near it, and he has faked a distress signal from Naomi to draw Holden in. He repeatedly says the kinds of things that abusive partners say. You made me do this. Remember that this is your fault, and so on. And that his harsh behavior isn't his behavior, but his victim's responsibility. And most tellingly, if you'd stayed in your place, James Holden would have lived. But oppression is oppression, As someone will comment in the following book, how's it any better if it's a Belter boot stomping on me instead of an inner boot? And much like denying Belters the right to build their own homeworld radicalize them, Naomi's now committed to taking action. She starts a fight in the infirmary, but it's just cover so that she can steal a decompression kit without being spotted. She begins plotting a way to get a suit to get to the Czech Smoka without them coming after her. And all the while, her old friends keep coming by, trying to talk her out of her current behavior. Earlier it had been remarks that maybe she's been on the wrong side for too long. But now seeing what's going on between her and Marco is making them fearful that they'd made a huge mistake in bringing her here, that she was going to commit suicide. They tell her that little people like them have to be understanding of people who make history like Marco does. They tell her that, okay, maybe things are bad between her and Marco, but for Philip's sake, she has to make this work. They insist this is a place where she is loved, while in contrast, other Belters are walking by openly shooting daggers at her for what she's done. They no doubt mean well, it's just they're so blinded they can't parse this any other way, that Marco is the savior the Belt needs, and we all need to acquiesce to the man, even if he might not be perfect. Go along with your abuser for the good of our people, Sase. But Naomi knows who her people are. They're her shipmates that Marco is trying to kill, and that, as she says to Philip, the only two sides here are those who want more killing and those who want less. The boy won't listen, though, calls her a whore who will leap into the bed of any man who's got a bit of power. It's the last thing he'd be able to say to her, because Naomi has to make her move now. She realizes no matter how much she covers her tracks, Marco will suspect a suit is missing and come back to the Czech Smoka. While she's working on her exit, the others have figured out she's found a way to override the airlock, and Sin manages to get in with her, while outside others are trying to get in, including her guilt-ridden son. But Naomi has made her decision. She's going to escape exactly the way she had tried to escape from Marco all those years ago, by opening an airlock and blowing her unprotected body out into space, even if it means blowing Sin out as well. But this time the attempt is not to escape into death. This time is to escape back to her life.